All right, I think we're live, board.
I think we are. Welcome.
Yeah, good. Welcome, Internet. And today we are going to be talking about creating the online Tesla configurator. As you can see, board has the screen open already. And what we basically are going to do is try to model each and every one of the parts that you can see on the page. We will dumb down the marketing a bit, but at least you can set up the car with paint, wheels, and model.
Yeah,
at least.
and of course you can add all of the marketing and the content side of things, but it will be the modeling and the flexibility of how to come up with a price. That is the topic, and we've picked here the Model E or 3 as they and basically if we're going to analyze what we see here, so this comes in basically 3 different base trims, right? We can also see actually that the wheel selection is also different. That's kind of the first hint, but we have for each of these guys, we have different properties, range specifically because of the battery, and it's a rear wheel and all-wheel drive. So I would think this is the base product variants on the trim level, and the trim is the Model 3. That's the trim that we're talking about here. So that kind of will set the foundation with the base starting prices. Yeah, this is just marketing. We'll just skip that. But here we see something else.
It's marketing, but it's also an optional thing that we can add in. Oh, well, it is included because you have already selected one of the bigger models.
Okay, so it's an optional included thing. Yeah, okay. Performance upgrade, okay. The paint is a different thing. First of all, we have the marketing side of things where it's a different color on the car, but it also changes the price. And if you switch a model, if you look at Model Y and X, Model C, there's no Model C. The price for the paint is different because the Model X, it costs 3,000 to do the red paint, and here it's only 2,000. So we'll look at that also, how we can tackle that. Wheels, pretty simple. And what we can notice is that I do think for the models, it's different which wheels are available. So this is something to notice. If you do the performance model, you can't change the wheels. It's only the 20-inch Uber turbine wheels. I guess that's the coolest wheels. For interior, interior is actually extra for white here. Okay, so there's a price component here. Co-pilot, self-driving, and charging options. That's pretty straightforward, I would say, with some generic options and some charging options. I would probably separate them out into different sections, and then that's the basis of the price. So let's get started. So we have prepared just a few images, just so we don't have to download them from the website while you all are watching. We have also used the topics in Crystallize to structure the assets a little bit. So this is, for example, Model 3, and we can also say if it's a type of image or if it's a more interesting color. This is actually tagged wrong. That's good. And this is basically the media that we will use in this example, red, for example. So this is the assets that we will use as a starting point when we are creating the model. We'll get back to that because there's some trickery with that also. But let's switch to the shapes. And this is the structure where you start the modeling in Crystallize. We are starting from scratch. There's nothing here. And I believe we need a shape to get started. And I'm going to call it a trim. And this will be Model 3, the main product.
Type of car.
Yeah. And I'll give it a name and a description. I'll not go into all of the marketing fields that you probably would like, but let's have a look at some of the variant-specific things that we would like to have. Because we saw that there's a range, top speed, and 0 to 60, and it differs from the different models. So this means that in the same product, we have different information depending on the variant that you're selecting. So here I will basically like to add a range as a numeric. And range, we will do it in kilometers.
Mm-hmm. Top speed, probably.
Top speed. And we'll do kilometers per hour. And what else? 0 to 60? Is that the
0 to 100 if you're going?
And that is in seconds, right? And here we probably also want to have 1 decimal because it's like 3.2 seconds or 2.8 seconds. So this is, I would say, baseline for the product. Now we can have the Model 3. We have the potential to input for each of the variants the 3 properties, specs, basically. Okay. Now, I haven't done the math, but if you combine all of the models with all of the paints and all of the wheels, it's at least 3. So you could potentially model this out like in a matrix with a lot of variants, but that's not so nice. And that's, of course, not what we're going to do here.
And it's, of course, harder to maintain as well if you have all the different options as a separate variant.
Yeah. So this is what we call composable products. So it's a product that is composed of multiple other components. And let's take the paint, which is kind of the most tricky part here. And I'm actually going to create a new shape. I'll call it finish. Okay, so what are we doing now? So we are creating a product with a particular description of a finish and a price. And we'll get back to the price, but you can say, let's at least have some marketing, name, description. Maybe you even have some things like paint, code, properties on the paint. Maybe you actually have some data sheets and PDFs and things like this also, to describe that particular finish. The unit costs or the price of the paint, we saw that it's different on Model X and Model 3. So we'll figure out how to deal with that. But I think this is our basic finish shape. And
it's good.
I will give you some work, Didrik. I'm going to create a folder, and I'm just calling it. Is it finish that is being used? Or maybe I should have said paints. So I'll create a folder called paints, just to be correct. And if I'll do the first one, and just create a new finish called red. And in this context, I'm basically also going to reuse just the image here. In this case, we have some stock. This is priced in euro. I'm going to give the price of red to 1,000. Red, maybe it's a different description here. Nice red color. paint code, Tesla paint R01. That's a good code. Okay, so if you could create the other ones, Didrik.
I'll go.
And it's different prices for them. The one thing that is in common is that for Teslas, white is always free. So that's the other ones have different prices. Okay, so now we have a paint shape, and we have in the catalog. I actually placed it the wrong place. So I'm going to move it in the paint folder, and here we see Didrik is already working on some paints there. So I'll switch back to the shape setup, because now we have the finish as a new shape, but it's not sold separately. So what I'll do is actually go into the variant story, which is the variant specific components for the trim. So here I'm going to use a little bit of a trick. I'm going to create a chunk, and I'll call it paints. This is a repeating chunk. I'll use a numeric, which is what should we call it? Usage? Is that a good?
It's yeah.
I'll do usage.
Usage.
We'll show the reason for that. So we have paints, we have the usage, and I'll also add a relation to the finishes. And I'll actually say that this is an item, because we make each of the finished products, we create as a separate shape. So we're going to make an item relation and saying that it needs to be of a particular finish. And we also will use the quick select here to basically give me some nice editorial experiences when I'm working on the paints there. I'm going to update this, and we will do this incrementally so that we take kind of one part of this at a time. Okay, so now we have the possibility of creating our first car. So I'm going to create a folder and call it models. And here I'm going to create a new product called model 3. And we'll set the price for this, and I don't remember, but it was like 40,000, 47, and 53. Okay, so 48,000. In this case, I also would like to have some pictures. So I'm just doing that. And I'm going to fill out some marketing. We can even borrow some text. I don't have a lot of text. So I'll just nice model. Okay, so on the product itself, it's actually not a lot of components, because most of the options in this configurator will be variant specific. And what we can do is basically switch to nerdy view here. And what I'm going to do now is to create the different base models, because these are different variants. And now we're talking about if it's rear wheel, all wheel, or if it's got the performance package. What do we call this? Base?
Engine types? No. What do you call it?
Rear
base.
I'll just base rare all-wheel drive performance.
Yeah.
Whatever. So it's basically just to have the different price points, and in this case, we'll just set the images to be the same. It's we'll do 40K, and it was I forget, it was 47 and 53, 47,000 and 53,000. We'll just set the stock to the same, and I'll just discard this first one. So these are basically the different base models that we have here. So it's the rear, all-wheel drive, and all-wheel drive performance. And of course, the clue now is basically that on the rear-wheel drive, I'm able also, of course, to give it a proper name. All three rear-wheel drive, like that. We can, of course, set the editorially default image if we want. So we can do like this, set the white to default here. And when we're looking at the variant story, so the specifications, we can input range, for example. This is 272 miles. Okay.
Bit in the
140 times 1.6. Okay. Yeah. And then what's the 0 to 60? 5.8 seconds. 5.8. Okay. So these are just the marketing specs of the car, right? But that's not where we did the magic. It's basically to say, okay, I have usage of the white paint. It uses 0. It consumes 0 of the paint in terms of pricing. So this is kind of a trick where you will be able to have different usages of different related products, so that you can calculate the total.
So in this case, basically 0 is included.
Exactly. And then for solid black, I think that was 1,000. I don't remember, but it is. And then for this guy, and same for the blue, was it a little bit more? Let's say 2.
Say 2 for the sake of.
Yeah, and then I'll just do the last one with the red. It's 3 because it was more expensive. The numbers is not that important, but what we did here is to allow for, and you could do this, I mean, if you're talking manufacturing, you could do it by the liter, but of course that makes no sense because you're pricing out the cost of the different paints. So where it's 0 for white, and it's we said 3, but it's 2 included of the red, which means the unit cost for red was 1,000. And in this case, if we input 2 units, let's do it correctly, boom, then it will be 2,000. And that is how you can reuse the product information of the paint and the structure of the trim across any of the models in the Tesla range. Because if you look at Model X, it's basically just 3 units of red. And then you have the correct price calculation of this. Yeah.
Of course, it also, you saw that the biggest version doesn't have all the paints, and that is also why you have on each variant, on the variant story, is where you define which paint it is on the Model 3. So these are the available paint options for the base or the rear-wheel drive Model 3.
That's a good piece of information, because basically also according to different years or different models, you do have different selections, and we will see that again with the wheels.
And once again, this is also our opinion on a way to model, because it just occurred to me, Ward, we could do this another way on the chunk level here, because you don't have to create a chunk for each count. You can just add all the colors that has the same count or usage unit. So you had one with 0, and then you have 2 with 3, or 2 was it, and 2 with 1.
Yeah, I feel this is a little bit more generic and structured, though.
Yeah, but just throwing it out there.
Thanks. I went back to the shape. So this is the structure of the product. And on the variant itself, we do want to be able to select something else. We want to be able to select wheels and interior. So I'm thinking that we need a couple of new shapes. We should be semantic here, and I think we will create a shape, a type of product for a wheel, and which is a combination of the rim and the tire. And it needs a name. And yeah, description. We don't really need a lot here because that's not the point. And now we can choose to create the wheels either as separate products, but to me it makes sense that the aero rims are combined, so maybe you have 18 and 19 inch options of the aero. So I'm actually going to leave it like this. And basically, if we want to create now a folder for wheels, and just move it down, and I'm going to create now a wheel, and this is aero, I think they call one of the rims. I don't know which of them it is. Probably this.
It was the right one, but
yeah, I don't remember the pricing of it, but is the price included here, or what? What happens?
The aero wheels is included.
Yeah. So, and then we can have again we can use the same model. It's let's just say it's 1,000 for aero. And in this case, let's actually create some sizes. Not sure if they come in different sizes for this case, but the 18 inch, 19 inch, 20 inch, probably. So it's the same. And then we'll just do the same price, and I'll also set the stock for this. Okay, so that's an example of allowing multiple dimensions of the same product, if relevant. And then we just need to create the other wheel. Maybe you can do that with the sport, Didrik.
I'll help you out, Bor.
Yeah, and then I'll switch back to the shape configuration, because now we are able to set up the relation, which is where we're going, the relation between the trim and the actual wheel that is available on this particular variant. So on the variant story again, we have the paints, just collapse them a little bit, and I'll do this with an item relation, and it's wheels. And in this case, let's model it differently, because I'm thinking that we will set the limitation to the shape of wheel, and also we will give a quick select for the editorial user so that I can choose which wheels are available. But in this case, it might be that some sizes are only available on some cars. So I'm going to set minimum 0, but also maximum 0. And here I'm just allowing for selection of SKUs. So this means that we have a relation, but to the wheel or the product variants, and not the group of the three sizes of the tire of the wheel.
We might set minimum at least one. A car should have wheels.
Okay. And of course, it's a given that 1 here means 4. Yeah.
True.
Okay, so let's go back to the Model 3. So what we've done now, we created a shape, a type of product for wheel. We created some wheels, and we set that we need a relation on the variant to a particular type of wheel. And I'll go to the rear-wheel drive, which is the one I started with, and we see we have the marketing information. We do see I get an error here because, as Didrik says, the car needs to have wheels. So that's exactly what's going on here. And basically, we here have the possibility of adding wheels. And what I'm doing now is I'm able to select all variants, or just since this is the cheapest model, we'll just say that you can get 18-inch wheels and 18-inch aeros as an example. So this limits the selection of which rim selection is basically available on the Model 3 with the lowest package and rear-wheel drive. Now we're setting us up for using the prices of the product variants, so the specific rims. We could, if the pricing for the rims are different for the different cars, which I don't think it is, you could use the same system where you say the usage, or the basically you create units, cost units, and price it according to how you want it to affect the price on the model, if it's included on a model and not included on another, for example. But this is to also show that you can do direct pricing on the products as well. Okay, so this means that I have now a model where I can select the paint, I can select the wheel, and then we would like to have I'm assuming that we would like to have the interior next.
Yeah, in the configurator, you can also choose the color on the interior.
Yeah. And there, black is included and white is what you pay for. And exterior, white is included, and if you want a black car, you have to pay. So the cheapest Model 3 is the white one with the black interior. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, interior. I'm creating a shape. And it feels like routine. Name, we need some marketing, we do a description. Okay, this is baseline for the simplest possible product. And basically, maybe Didrik, you can create black and white interior as 2 different products in the background, and I will configure the trim to have the option to select interior. And in this case, we want to use another example. We'll use a relation, and it's interior. And basically, now we have a different model, because now I want to say that we're not going to create different SKUs. We want to have items, just to show the difference, that you can relate to a specific variant of a product, so that, for example, furniture, a particular mattress fits a particular product variant, same width, for example. Whereas in this case, we just have 2 types of interior, and we're going to say that this is a shape, interior, and we already have magically a folder called interior here. This is what Didrik has been doing. And I'm going to update the shape now. So basically we have done configurable options 3 ways here, because we have the paint, which is reusing assets. You have the pricing is unified, and you can differentiate the pricing and the selection depending on the model. The wheels is a direct relation to SKUs, where the pricing is direct, and here it's a direct relation to products. So just to show the 3 different ways of doing this, which is kind of the same thing, but a little bit different. Especially depends if you have a lot of products which are the same but comes in many different sizes. It makes a lot of sense to use SKU relations versus if you have a lot of, what do you call it, loose products. So it's just one variant, then it's the item relation that makes sense. And here I'm going to say you can choose either black or white interior.
You can basically set up a configurator to calculate the material cost of what the user has inputted, which is pretty cool.
Okay, so this is the model itself. We can add further options, because now we have paint, interior, wheel. There's also some generic options, which I believe is just software upgrades for all cars. Is it a price differentiation on this?
I think that's a flat fee.
6.15. Okay, let's select the most expensive one and see. 6.15. Okay, so this is a good example of, we need another shape, don't we? Of course, in theory, we could have created the paints and the wheels in the interior using a generic add-on product, but you typically end up wanting specific marketing information or specific specs for the different types of products, especially in a configurator setting. So you want to be semantic. But I'm going to make an example of a generic, should we just call it an option?
Yeah.
And basically just name and description. Seen it before, maybe. Okay. Maybe you can, in the background, create some options. And we're basically talking about the enhanced autopilot as a product and full self-driving capacity. And then I'll show how we can drag this in as a relation. And we can treat also the charging in the same way. But maybe in this case, we want to be semantic. And I'll show what I mean with that. Because now we have a new type of product called option, which basically allows me to, let me create a relation here, which is a relation to an option. And we will call the first one for, let me think. So this is generic options. That was a good name. And this is a relation to products. No validation, because you don't necessarily need options. And I want to make an other example where I'm also a little bit more semantic, describe charging options, which is at the same level, only items. It's optional. It is an option. And I want to maybe also quick select, because we can organize the options under a folder for options and have some generic options. And we can also have some charging options. Technically, you don't have to group it, but I like to be semantic in terms of these are the charging options and these are the generic software upgrades, basically, which is the other option. And here we have a folder magically appeared. for quick select, again, the quick select is a UI improvement for editorial users so that you can just click on it. Okay. I'm now going to go back to the product itself, which we have in the three wheel configurations. Engine configurations is probably better. And now we can see on the model itself, we also have some options. So here I have full self-driving and enhanced autopilot. I don't have any charging options. I'm not sure if somebody's working on that.
Yet. Coming.
Yeah. Basically what Didrik did in the background was just to punch in some information on self-driving capability and give it a price. And then you have the different enhanced autopilot, wall connector, mobile connector. Good thing about this, to extract this as an option, is that we actually have the full capability of marketing this feature. We could add some images, of course, but more in terms of specification or the marketing copy that you want to have going on there. Okay.
There we go.
So what you're saying is that I should go back to my model. And
configure it.
Now I should configure charging options, mobile and wall connector. Right, so what we have now is, I think, the full setup of what they use on Tesla for a Model 3. So if you want to recap, we have the variant-specific specs. We have the 3 variants to set the base price, and also the base configuration, because we can select which wheels are available for the particular variant. We could also, in the chunk with the paint, have like a default, for example, so that if you want to pre-select anything but the first option, you can do that. But in this case, we have the paints where we basically did the trick where how much of the red paint are we using? This is using 2 times the base cost, basically, so that you can just say how much it uses. Fabric for furniture, for example, how many meters is used to calculate this piece of furniture. Same for the wheels, but here we have not done the multiplication thing. We just set the price and assume it's the same upsell for all the models regardless. And also the same for interior. The difference here is that we relate to a product and not a variant. So because the wheels come in different sizes, 18, 19, 20 inch, for example. And those are basically the model-specific configuration options that you have. And then you have common for all. You have the 4 upsell options, basically, enhanced autopilot and some charging options. And that is exactly what we have on the product. We have the model description. We have the 3 variants. We do have some generic options. We have the charging options, which are semantically grouped here. And then we go to the trim itself. So this is the rear-wheel drive Model 3. And here we have the range, top speed, etc. We have the paints with the usage. We do have the rims, wheels, rims and tires, wheels is called. And we have the interior. Now, there is one more thing. Because now, what do we do with the images, right? Because we do have color options, which are affecting all of the models, right? So it's a white long range. We do have all of the images on the 3 variants. But I would like to make it so that we programmatically also can fetch the right image based on the current selection. What do you think, Didrik? Model 3
for me. Yeah. So what, as you started the live stream with, is that you show the asset organizer. You have all the assets already inside of Crystallize, neatly organized by topics. So you can also see that board now added 3 as a model, basically a tag to the model 3, which means that whenever we fetch this product, we can take the topic map for this model and fetch the images attached to it. That will give you all model 3 images.
Yeah.
But then when the user started to select the paint, you can also see on each paint, we also tagged all of those with a color, red, blue, whatever.
Let me show that actually.
Yeah. Down here, Pearl White has a topic with white. The same goes for black. It has black. And this is something I manually inputted afterwards now while the board was entertaining. So what that means is that you can call it replicate the functionality we have here in Crystallize in the asset organizer. Say that, okay, now give me all images that has the model 3, but user has selected black as color. Here we go. Oh, I got the interior. Wrong tagging, I guess.
Yeah, I'll just fix it because it was the black that had the
the blue.
Yeah, you see. So it's very structured, but it's not kind of fixing manual error, right? So this is obviously a black. So what you can do is then add the correct color, and I think also was it the gray, midnight silver? No, this is correct. And here you basically see that you have the color of the image of the car, but also the swatch, the color selector thing, and you see all of the Model 3 images, and this is basically what you use then, as Didrik said, to be able to pick the right image, basically here, so that you then fetch the image from that organizer which matches the topic of the car and the paint, and it just gives you the image directly.
Yeah, exactly.
Or multiple, if you want to have multiple, for different front, side, top, etc.
And of course, this is something you have to do in the front end, but it's quite easy. There is a separate API calling for assets, and then you can say, okay, I want all assets that has model 3, but also has color black or midnight silver in this case. And then it will filter it out for you. So that is one way of doing it. The same goes for the interior, because you have the black and white interior, but you actually have a nifty little detail in there that the color of the car changes depending on what paint you have chosen.
Yeah.
So it's kind of small, but it is blue, I guess.
Yeah. and this is just using the exact same trick, right? So and you can do that also for multiple images, because you have the exterior view of the interior also, right? Because
I also did now, while browsing and copy pasting some information, I saw that, of course, the Model X has seating options, which we did not address. But it's basically using the same principles as we have done, probably as a relation with, call it seats, and creating items separate seats options.
And the goal is basically to have maximum reuse of product information, pricing, and to make those a little bit more complex scenarios where there's options that maybe are not available everywhere, and everything affects the price, and really helps them to create the different shapes that we have done here. And as we see, it's pretty straightforward to model Tesla.com in terms of the product configurator there. And you have in Crystallize just drag and drop and clicking, and then you can start to input it. So I guess that's the model. I guess it's a success if I'm to judge my own performance, Didrik.
I'll be the judge of that, but I think you did good, Bård. Well, I was watching.
Thank you much. Okay. Hope this was interesting. Happy to receive any comments, or if there's any other type of configurators you would like to see modeled. We're game.
Yeah, I think we'll do a couple of these. We have some suggestions, but the best is if anyone has any suggestions for us. So either join our Slack community or reach out to us in your preferred way.
And also just a last comment on, as we did get a question on performance impact, and if having products as a relation has any impact to the performance versus having it in the same shape. I would say that this is not measurable in terms of the performance difference, and I think the convenience of reuse and the structure that you get is making this the proper way of doing it. And also you can have different responsibilities, as we also saw. So editorially, Didrik could work on interior and options, and I could work on the actual trim for Model 3 or whatever car. So it makes splitting up work also more convenient. So I definitely think this is the way to go for configurators. And this technique is also being used in several live projects with Crystallize. So ping us if you want to hear more about that.
Right.
Okay.
I think we leave it at that. Oh, question. What if you couldn't do prices as units, but the prices were directly related to combinations of selections?
Not sure if I understand the questions. So if you have a color and an interior, and that affects the price. Well, you have to figure out the math behind it basically and model it accordingly. You can, as we started with, you can build a matrix based pricing, just explode the variants. That gives a lot of flexibility, but it also quite limiting to the okay. Yeah. So what you could do then is model out relations in addition, so that you can do conditional pricing. Exactly with the example here, if you add a color at 1,000, but if you also select a premium tire, for example, it would only add 800. So in that case, we could do the same, do the relation between the color or the paints and the tires, and just say different pricing in the relation there. So you can do things like that also. And again, the actual calculations and the rendering of this, which we haven't done, happens in the front end. So there you also have all the possibilities of doing the checks of conditions and information. The goal with the modeling is to have a foundation so that you can query and get the information to display, but also to calculate the price. That's kind of what we're trying to achieve. But we're happy to dive into other scenarios, and maybe that's a good candidate for future modeling, figuring out some edge cases and taking a little bit more advanced setup. But at least we're able to do this car shop.
Yeah. It's, in terms of configurators, it's of course a bit simple, but this you can just pile on, extend it to your needs. So I think this is good for demo purposes.
Yeah. Okay. We will end on that note. Thanks for watching, and I guess there will be a new one. Catch you in that one.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.